Hello. 2 nights ago on July 9th, while in prayer, I received a vision with the Lord. It was the first part of the vision, although I didn't know it at the time. And this morning on July 11th, in prayer, He gave me the second part of the vision. He wants me to put a video out on them. I'm not sure if it's going to be 2 videos or just one, but I'll start with the first part. He called it The Trees and the Journey. He took me to a tall, wide tree filled with little tiny leaves. It was in a shaded forest. Behind us it went on and on, deeper and darker, so very far. Before us it was shallow and brighter, and the sunlight peeked in overhead in more places, before us than behind us, but I knew glimpses of light were everywhere. Ahead, in the not too far distance, was a break in the forest, the very edge, a clearing. And I was excited to see it. Almost secretly I had doubted its existence. It was there and so very bright. He stood with me a moment at the tree and told me that this forest is our journey, and it is coming to an end of the old and a transition to the new. He motioned us to continue the walk. As we moved toward the clearing, he pointed out many things to notice along the way, things I had encountered on this long, tedious, treacherous journey. There were many paths. Some were worn well and very comfortable to walk, grassy, flat, wide, easy, but they twisted and interwove and inevitably veered off or wandered far and long. There were narrower, rockier paths, but they were confusing and burdensome, almost intentionally. One would stumble on them, and it would be difficult to even see where they would lead. There was fear upon these paths, for they didn't show any progress on the whole journey. There were paths that seemed right. They were narrow and hard, but they would end abruptly at a big tree and go no further. He led me to examine the trees next. There were many, many trees, and in all states of life. There were fallen, decaying trees. Some were so dark and dead, with vermin living in them. Some were fallen and old, but were decomposing and had moss and grass and other life growing up out of them. Some were tall and towering, big and bold, with shiny leaves upon them. But when I looked closer, they were dead as stones, lifeless, fake, barely standing, and I knew a strong wind would topple them easily, and great would be their fall. Many, many trees were like this, of all shapes and sizes, but they had no root system, no stable base. They had no foundation. There were other trees too, beautiful living trees of all shapes and sizes. They had all manner of leaves and fruit or nuts. They had little leaves or big and shiny leaves. They were small and just starting, or big and offered support to those around. They had deep root systems, so very deep, and I knew that because their roots were so deep, they would always stand. Their roots were so complex and strong that I knew soon they would start to visibly grow taller and become the whole forest. They would be the support and shelter for all who would journey through this forest. So the path we were on was very straight and narrow. It was difficult but not burdensome. It was virtually always in an incline and easy to see where you were going and making progress, unless you glanced off of the path for too long, and then you would have to discern its markings once again. When on it, your next step was very easy to see, but not much farther ahead. It wasn't fearful, it wasn't dark, and though a bit lonely, you weren't alone. It was a path of great peace and joy. From time to time, this journey, while getting constantly brighter in the slightest degree, would offer great and wonderful glimpses of light overhead. The sun would peek through at the most opportune times to offer light, warm your skin, shine a smile and brighten your day. The sun was so delectable and made you quicken your steps to reach the clearing where the fullness of the sun awaited your arrival. We were nearing that clearing, and my heart was beating so very fast. Just before the tree line ended and the canopy faded away, there was a tangle of roots and branches upon the path. The way was obstructed, and I had to make every effort to overcome these obstacles. The Lord was my guide, and with His wisdom and mercy, I overcame the difficulty and navigated through the complication and broke out into the deep, rich sunlight. It was so glorious. I was engulfed in the sun, and every shadow fled. The care and worry and wonder of it all slipped away. The goal was reached, and the memory and pain and weariness from the long, difficult journey faded into nothing but a wisp of a thought. We sat at a great ancient rock covered with living moss. The sun was shining, and I was inside of love.